Hi, my name is Father Alex. I'm the host of the Godcast, and today's interview is with Jonathan Veira. Jonathan is a wonderful singer who sings all different types of genres of music and has been professionally singing for many years and sung across the UK, Europe, and across the world. So I really hope you enjoy this interview now with the one and only Jonathan Veira. Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast today is Jonathan Veira. Now, Jonathan Veira is a wonderful singer who sings in different genres, and his talents have taken him across the country and across Europe and across the world. Jonathan, it's really wonderful to welcome you to the Godcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm just recovering from a kidney transplant. It happened two months ago. My wife gave me one of her kidneys, which I'm very grateful for. And so we're just kind of finding our way back into life, really. So it's great doing this. And my concerts live from the Steinway Room online on a Sunday night. So that was we did that first last week, but that was the first one after 6-7 weeks off completely. Well, 2 months off actually. And so we're back doing that on a Sunday night. So it's been interesting. Yeah, to say the least. So how am I? A multifaceted question that is indeed.
As if you don't need enough during the pandemic with the virus itself, you go and arrange a kidney transplant. That must have been quite an anxious time for you.
Terrible. I mean, it was the worst. I was in dialysis for 7 months, and dialysis is, nobody really knows about dialysis until you do it, and goodness knows it's a horrible thing to have to do on a three times a week, 4 hours a time. It's completely restricted. You cannot go anywhere. You can't do anything. You're a slave to the dialysis unit, and you're there with 27 other people having the same thing done, having your blood cleaned. And if you don't have it, then you'll simply quite simply you'll die. And so having the kidney transplant is a wonderful treatment, and it gives you the possibility of life again. And I'm very grateful to, and beyond grateful it doesn't quite communicate it to my wife, Sue, who has donated one of her kidneys. So it's a roller coaster, and through the pandemic, it was like a perfect storm, Alex. You know, I think a lot of people found that, and we've been over this pandemic doing this show. Because we couldn't go out and do anything. I've done no shows since March 2020, March the 6th, 2020. And as a performer, I've never, ever been in this position where I couldn't earn a living. I just could not earn a living. You couldn't do anything. All the concerts that we had planned, 27, 30 concerts were cancelled. Immediately the tour was cancelled. And we're now, just today, we're confirming some dates around the country coming into the autumn. And I can't wait, but you know, it's been terrible for everybody, and it's been a nightmare for everybody, I think, actually. Yeah. Apart from people who love to be stuck in a house, actually.
Yeah. I love all genres of music, Jonathan, and recently, just a few weeks ago, I was at the Tramlines Festival in Sheffield, and it was kind of an indie festival, but the sense of joy there, not just from the crowds, but from the artists as well, this kind of euphoria that things were kind of getting back to some sort of normality. How excited are you about actually standing there and performing in front of a live audience?
You cannot believe it. I mean, it's interesting how it was my lifeblood for 35 years. I would get up and do 40 or 50 performances a year, and around the world in opera or classical music, and then of late in my one-man shows around the country to live audiences. And the challenge for a performer is always to perform in front of people, and that means that you've got to work, you've got to practice. You know, you're practicing the Chopin if you're. So I've been, and that's what I've been trying. I've been sitting there playing Chopin to try and get my fingers back into, they call them the chops, so I can play in front of an audience, because one of the things is you think, can I still do it? And I know a lot of people in a lot of professions are going, well, actually, I did this for so long, but can I still do it now? I remember being able to do it a year and a half ago, but the process of performing and the skills associated when you haven't done it, you've been watching Netflix and, you know, Prime and the BBC iPlayer, and you've been tidying a room, or you've been having an operation and you haven't had anything. I can't wait to just stand in there. Someone said to me the other day, and I was doing another podcast the other day, and they said, have you thought of the first words you're going to say when you get out in front of an audience? And I just said, I thought about it, and I think it's going to be this: evening. That's my first word, all right? After that, I'll see where I go. I have no idea. And all I know is that I'll be standing in front of people and having a good time. And they are hungry people, as you said. In fact, they're hungry for live music. They want performance, because it's the essence of who we are, actually. Music and live performance, not just pre-recorded stuff on Spotify. And everybody can get all my stuff on Spotify. It's great. But actually, the truth is that you need to be out there performing it and singing and using the voice, you know, which we've done nothing. All we get, you know, you've been in your pajamas for the last 16 months and trousers that are loose fitting. Remember that, Alex? Remember those? You know, elasticated waist.
Long time ago.
Need I tell you more?
No.
And
Jonathan, just,
so, you know,
on your health, are you feeling the benefits of the transplant already? It's only been...
Yeah, I am. I mean, yeah. Sue says I'm looking better, but to be honest, with a face like this, I don't know whether you can ever look better. You just kind of look as you are. So I can never tell whether I'm looking better or not. But I have more energy, and so Alex, you never know what the kidney does until it doesn't work, and then you realise that it's a multifunctional organ that makes nearly everything else work. So I feel more energetic. I mean, I lose energy over a day, so I've got to do various things today. I was up at the hospital in London, so I live in Guildford, and I had to go up to London for a blood test at 7 o'clock this morning. And so, you know, you do that twice a week, and you respond to various drug regimes and things. But in the meantime, I've been at the piano trying to, you know, sing, trying to work out whether I can sing, you know, God on high, heal my prayer in my need. You have always been there. Is your afraid? Let him if I die, let me die. And so I'm just seeing with the voice works again.
It sounds all right to me, Jonathan. It sounds
well,
wonderful.
I mean, I hope so, because that one from Les Mis, we recorded 2 albums in lockdown. Could you believe? That were both crowdfunded by the JV community. That's what they called themselves. I didn't call them this. They called themselves the JV community. And we raised £20,685 to go and record, employ musicians in studios, and some of the best musicians in the world, because, of course, they were unemployed. So I had to pick of anybody I wanted. And you got some real fabulous names like Ben Castle, who's played on every album known to man with every major artist. He came on, and Bryn Howarth playing the guitar for me. So you've got Raoul d'Oliveira on the flugelhorn. Mark Edwards is my producer. He's been for many years. And so you've got, you know, fantastic double bass player, Arnie Sauvagy, and a drummer, Darren E. Beckett, a New York drummer beyond that you would never think, and normally you couldn't get, but because of pandemic, they came on, and we all just played together. It was a joy in the studio to record these, you know, a mix of secular songs, some gospel songs as well. So we had absolute a ball recording 25 songs, 2 albums. You know, these are the things that we realised as musicians, that this is what we were born to do. And actually, the pandemic, if nothing else, it focused in our minds on saying, this is what we do. This is what we bring to the universe, to people's lives. And this is how we bring hope, I suppose. Actually, that's what music does.
Yeah. Jonathan, tell me about the importance of your fans, the JVs, as you called them. I talked to a guy called Rick Witter from an indie band called Shed 7 recently, and Jonathan Antoine, and they both talked about how important their fans have been during this pandemic. They've kind of, you know, that goal is to get back to those people that pay the pound notes to come and see you. How important is it to you?
I can't even put I mean, this is going to sound like one of these kind of the celebrity thing where they say, oh, you know, my fans are so important to me. And it sounds so disingenuous. My wife and I, sorry, I'm showing my chest to you. I must be more demure, mustn't I? Otherwise, you've got you're buttoned up right to the top, and I'm not. The fans, as I often have said in opera or anything else, the fans are what we go there for. The audiences that come to see you, to see JV or to see Shed 7 or whoever it is, they come to see you because they love what you do, and your responsibility to them is almost an unwritten contract. That your contract is with them. It's not with even the record companies. It's with the audiences that will buy the records, or will download your music, or will come to the concerts and will support you through thick and thin. And we've had thousands of people that have tuned into the show. I mean, when we started doing the show, I have to say to you, Alex, we didn't. I wrote a song at the time from number 6. As an Anglican priest, you will know that actually in the Anglican order, you're the one that can say it, because it's the Aaronic blessing. You know, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you. And I'd just done an album just before we did lockdown called Hymns Project 2. And I'd recorded this, and it was, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine on you. The Lord bless you and keep you His peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine on you. The Lord bless you and keep you, and give you His peace, and give you His peace. And we put that song out on the day that the lockdown was announced. I just said to Sue, get in front of a computer, sit down at the Steinway, record it and put it out. And within a day and a half, we'd had 10,500 views. And now, bearing in mind, up to then, you know, you might have 1,000 if you're lucky. And suddenly people from all around the world were downloading this. And it was people writing in who were not Christian, not of faith, nothing to do with faith at all. And they just said, I put it out as a comfort to people, all right? Because at that time, I felt that we all needed a blessing, because this was definitely what was going on was unprecedented. And if anything, the church had to be there, and Christians had to be there for people who didn't have faith, who didn't know what it was. And people say, I wish I had your faith. You don't have to have my faith. But those words, which have historicity, they have a background, they come from somewhere really special, thousands of years old. And as Aaron holds up his hand and he says, the Lord bless you and keep you, the Lord make His face and give you His peace. And at that time, people were so moved. And so we then said, well, let's go on and say hello to people live. Somebody said, my nephew suggested I go on and live and do it on Facebook Live. So we did it, sung a couple of songs. That lasted, we suddenly started seeing hundreds of people tuning in. And then it was thousands of people tuning in. At one point, we had, 20,000 views within the week. Now, that doesn't mean 20,000 people. It meant around about you know, 10 or 15,000 people, but from around the world. And now what we've got is a stable, almost like an online church of people meeting because they couldn't meet anywhere else. So the evening became a way of serving them as they served us, as they came and listened to us. And then we gave, and this was the thing, that the fans then became incredibly generous. So I would get interviews. I've got 60 interviews with different people in different, some Christian, some not, charities that were changing people's lives, food banks, and they would raise money. And I almost, Alex, what I did is I put the collection plate round each week and said, let's change a few people's lives. We started doing that. They raised thousands of pounds for charity. I can't even remember what the figure is now. It's thousands. I mean, high, five-figure thousands. Yeah. That they were giving away to charities. And I was seeing lives changed because we bothered to get in front of a computer. And it was them, the fans, who were doing this. And what I saw was that if you lose sight of them and you start getting involved in, you know, this is me and my music, me and my, it's not that. It's about them. And so what you do is serve them with the music and the stuff that you're doing. That's what I try to do. Does that answer the question a bit?
It makes me just, well, just listening to you talk, Jonathan, makes me want to ask the question. Your singing is a vocation as much as a profession, isn't it?
It has to be, because at times like this, in times when we have earned from music since March the 6th, 2020, I'm not afraid to tell you, we've earned £1,600 directly from fees, right? That's it. That's what we've earned. Now, people have given us, full disclosure, people have been kind and they would send us some money as a gift to get us through, okay? But we received no salary. I receive a stipend from a university. I'm a university lecturer as well, so I get £5,000 from them in a year. But apart from that, that £1,000, my wife's little pension from a civil service pension, that's it. That's what we got like this year for this, and it'll be 18 months before we are allowed to perform again in public on the 24th of September down in Devon. We've got a concert down there. So suddenly it has to be vocation, because if it wasn't vocation, well, what else would I do? And what else can I do? I'm pretty useless at nearly everything else. My wife says you know, she used to say about DIY and things like that. She used to say, darling, all you need is the confidence. Just have the confidence. Now she just says, let's get someone in, please.
Snap. Snap.
You understand?
I totally understand, yeah. Jonathan, can I just ask about the beginnings of your career? Who were you listening to as a kid? What were your musical influences as a boy?
Oh, mate. Well, of course, I trained classically, as you can tell. You know, I like Chopin, I like Mozart and Beethoven. You know, and and Beethoven obviously was part of a big kind of all this kind of big classical stuff. At the same time, I was listening to don't go changing to try and please me. You never let me down before. You always had my unspoken passion, though I might not seem to care. And Billy Joel was my absolute go-to, because I was a pianist. Yeah. I loved his style. I loved his lyrics. You know, my life, all that. I don't care what you say anymore. This is my life. Bum, 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 bum. Carry on with your own life. Leave me alone. So I was listening to that. A lot of Ray Charles, Motown, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder I was a huge fan of that kind of funk, and I suppose some progressive rock. But I tried to listen to as much as possible, including a lot of classical music, symphonies, piano concertos from the great Romantic the classical composers, as it like Mozart, Haydn, those kind of people, but also later than that into much more Rachmaninoff and the Russian composers. So I tried to soak myself in as much music as possible. So when I started my career as an international opera singer, which was a bit of a shock to me, I have to say, after winning a very big singing competition in 1985, I think it was, the Peter Pearce singing competition. I won that, and I also won the Capital Radio Prize. So I won about £4,500 in 1985, which was a lot of money, and it was tax free. And but more to the point, I then went into to Glyndebourne Opera House, which was in the East Side, very famous opera house, and I went there. That's where I started really my career, and I took everything in with me. I took Billy Joel, Mozart, Verdi, all these things, because and now what do? I do a whole eclectic mix of stuff. And don't apologise, and never apologise for anything that I do, because I think good music is good music. That's it.
Just as a sideline, I think I read somewhere that "Just the Way You Are" by Billy Joel, when Paul McCartney was asked if there was one song he wished he'd written that he hadn't, I do believe it's that one. I think it's one of McCartney's favourite songs.
And with justification, because it not only lyrically, but the way the way it goes. Won't you just wait? I need to know that you will always be. Somewhere I can't remember now. But the construction of the song harmonically is just fantastic. But then I went to a Billy Joel concert at Wembley. My son bought me tickets, and it was I've been to a number of them. One was at Earl's Court, where I was coming back from doing it's a lovely story. Coming back from doing an opera in Barbados, as you do, and it was an opera season, and Pavarotti was doing one concert, and I was doing a two-hander written by Stuart Copeland from the Police, and Stuart was there, and so he wrote it for me and this other guy. So we performed this. And that was when I got an appearance in Hello magazine, and I stood next. I was standing next to his wife, and I'd had this picture. The photographer came, and it said, "And here is so and so with minor celebrity Jonathan Veira." And Alex, the term minor celebrity is what offended me most. Minor celebrity. Give me a break. How rude. So, but it was, and I coming back on the plane. And a woman came up to me. I was sitting in business class at that time. They had the money in those days. And she came up and she said, "Sorry, Mr. Veira, sorry to interrupt you, but she said, I just want you to know, I saw you in Magic Flute at Covent Garden Festival, and I just want you to know I really enjoyed it." I said, "So what did you do?" She said, "Well, I was doing lighting for some of this in Barbados." But she said, "I'm a lighting engineer." She said, "But not anything you'd be interested in, I'm sure." So I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well," she said, "I'm doing Billy Joel at Earl's Court." And I went, "Well." And she said, "Well, what are you interested?" She said, "I'll get you VIP tickets." So I got VIP tickets right next to the stage, okay? And it was sensational. He came up standing on the piano singing "It's Going to Be a Hard Day's Night," Beatles.
Yeah.
And there's, what it's like. So it's the kind of mutual admiration society between them, it is.
Yeah.
But I love Billy. I love those kind of songwriters that are clever as well as musical. And he's still doing, Alex, he's still doing gigs now. He's nearly 70. I think he's 70 now. And he's still doing major tours. Unbelievable. And his piano skills are still legendary.
I can tell you're a fan.
Oh, yes. Just a bit.
Jonathan, one genre we've not touched on there in that kind of introduction to music is the kind of religious music, hymns.
Mm.
How did that evolve for you? Were you in a choir, or just tell us about that?
Well, I was brought up in a Christian home, quite strict Christian home, actually, Christian brethren. Not a lot of laughs there, I can tell you that. And we ended up, I suppose, part of my DNA as a child, as a Christian, was to listen to hymns, a lot of hymns. And I ended up playing, by the time I was about 11, I was playing and sight reading hymns from, you know, all those, I think, and too many to mention here, but gospel hymns that that I had to play. I had to learn to play, and I had to play. And they liked it being florid. So be then, in my soul, my Savior God to me, how great the heart, how great the heart. And the more florid, the better, it seems. Okay, more arpeggios, all that stuff. Yeah. And I suppose hymns then became part of my history. And I looked at it and thought, well, actually, some of the things that they had to explain, because hymns, as you know, as an Anglican priest, you know, the Anglican priest only allowed the singing of hymns, as in written by you and me, instead of the Psalter. It was, what, 1850 or something like that. And so hymns were a new invention in a way, and brought in by people like Wesley, who wrote 8,700 of them plus in his life. And he left a mark which was a personal statement on what faith meant to them. Yeah. So they'd interpret it through the Bible, and then they'd sing about experiences that they had. You know, my chains fell off, my heart was free, I rose, went forth and followed thee. So there's an experience, an experiential side to it, but there's also a historical side to it and a biblical side to it. So I quite like some of what they've got to say. Not all of them. And listen, when you go through the filtration system of history and sieve out what's good and what's bad, most is bad. And when you have 8,700 of them, you've got about 10 that we now still sing, that we remember. Yeah. So that's reasonable. So therefore, when I write a new tune to old words, or I put a few words, tag on some words, I love that will let me go. I wrote this. Oh, there's a tune that goes, "Whole heart that will not let me go. I rest my weary soul in thee." I wrote a new song. Whole heart that will not let me go. I rest my weary soul in thee. I give thee back the life I owe. That in thine ocean depths its flow may reach a fool of thee. May reach a fool of thee. Oh, perfect love, unchanging love, oh, love that will not let me go. Oh, perfect love, unchanging love, oh, love that never lets me go. And I sat and wrote that and started thinking, you know, there are some of these words that have come out of experience. He who wrote that lost nearly everything in his life, and he was writing it as a blind person, a Baptist minister. He writes, and I trace the rainbow through the rain, and those images, I think they're some beautiful poetry, actually, Alex, and that's what I wanted to try and capture. Yeah. Again, the sense of that, because often the modern hymns, they're a little bit kind of kitchen sink.
Well, let me ask you, Jonathan, I want to ask you, because it's on my list of questions. I've just drifted away with this. I've just enjoyed these.
Yeah, hey, look, we have the chat. It's great. It's lovely. I love this.
But I just want to, as an educator yourself, what was your take on hymns as education? Because, you know, there are some great contemporary Christian acts out there. Matt Red, probably the top of his but you know, even in our church schools, we tend not to sing hymns as much as we used to. But there's some good messages and theology in there, isn't there? What's your take on that in terms of school education?
Well, school education, pedagogy, and it's very interesting. I teach at university, so what is bound by certain regulations about faith, about being explicit about faith. If it's a church school, I guess they have more leeway. There are, according to the Board of Education and the diocese here, you can do certain things, but you've got to be very careful about what you're doing and what you're putting in. Clearly, there is a move away from, in assemblies, from singing. So group singing, apart from if you're singing, I don't know, "You Raise Me Up" with a church, with a group choir or something like that. They will do what I call the kind of songs of praise approach, which is hills, mountains, and flowers, and all that kind of thing. And yet, what it misses out is the central doctrine, the truth, as we understand it, of the gospel about Jesus and why he comes, the history around him, the stories that we could tell. Let me just go back, just step back a bit. The reasons that hymns were written often were not just because I read about this quite extensively. Hymnody comes about, and Wesley writes as prolific as he is because he has a choir practice. He had a choir practice every Tuesday night, and people didn't read. They had to learn the hymns to a largely illiterate audience. Mm. And so what he's teaching them is the stories of the Bible via a hymn. So take carols as an example. Once in Royal David City stood a lonely cattle shed where a mother laid her baby in a manger for his bed. Mary was that mother mild, Jesus Christ, a little child. So what you've got in there is fact. A lot of, they were there, the logistics of it. And then they have the spiritual content. Mary was a Jesus Christ, her little child. Now, but what he came down from earth to heaven. Right, there we go. Theology straight away. The incarnation, teaching it about that, but teaching it in a way that ordinary people could take away, learn. And you think about carol service. People come in who have zero faith and they sing, "Oh come," or "Oh come, let us adore him." Oh come, really? Is that what you're actually meaning? Well, do you know what? That becomes part of you. And I think carol services have a way of reaching parts that other services can't reach, because they're so much part of who we are. Away in a Manger, Silent Night, blah, blah, all of these things. And so I think it can seep into and feed us as people later on in life. Therefore, if you're asking me, should we sing them? I think it would be nice if we could sing them, if it wasn't as controversial as you're trying to indoctrinate people into your religion. And that would be a kind of liberal consensus that that's not what we're supposed to be doing, inculcating faith into young people. Now, I happen to think that there are ways of actually singing a song and having it as part of you. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. When people come into you conduct a funeral. What are the songs you pick for funerals or weddings? You pick songs, don't you, that people are going to sing. The Lord's My Shepherd, Amazing Grace, so the school hymns, as we would call them. All right, because those are the ones that people know. And I guess actually that if we can, part of the project, the Hymns Project 1 and 2 that I recorded, it was about using those words I've just got it here right in front of me, Hymns Project 2. Just a closer walk with it, make me a channel of your peace, praise my soul, the King of heaven. Just what else? Guide me, O thou great Jehovah. And so I give new meaning to it by recording it with jazz musicians and souping it up a little, giving it a little bit of a kind of a pop feeling, so that you can sing it. Maybe that's what we've got to do, because a lot of people do not want to go into a church and sing with an organ. They just don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. That's, call it cultural. It's a major cultural shift. I mean, what do you find in your church? What do you do?
Well, we have a beautiful organist, and we sing, mainly traditional hymns, those that you've just mentioned. That's what seems to be popular.
Yes.
I would like to explore the potential of singing, I don't know, a few Matt Redman songs. I do think he's got a talent, and I find the words very, very useful. I wanted to ask you about
Go on. Sorry, somebody trying to get hold of me.
About you mentioned the 23rd Psalm there. The Lord is my shepherd.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've given much time to looking at and studying the Psalms? Because if we're not singing hymns anymore, well, we're certainly not singing the Psalms anymore, are we? Are they something that interests you?
How could they not interest you if in a sense that Psalter was the basis of all Christian worship for hundreds of years. It was the only authorized hymn book, as it were, to sing songs from there. Or you had books like Psalm Praise in the 60s and 70s that were written by Bishop Bourne and people like that. And I find the Psalms fascinating, and the reason I find them fascinating is coming from a point of I'm by nature. I'm going to put this out there. I never mind about telling people. I'm by nature depressive, and so part of this kind of the artistic sense of me, maybe creative people do tend to be more glass half empty, or as my wife says, never mind about half empty. Somebody's nicked the glass, as far as I'm concerned. And so when you look at the Psalms, you see Psalms of desperation as well as Psalms of praise and thanks. And I think they're Psalms of honesty. They're reflections of the honest reflections of a man. He's not an everyman, but actually, like every man, and every woman, they have these experiences of deep despair. Why have you, this kind of the cry on the cross, why have you forsaken me, Lord? That kind of thing. And being chased down by Saul, David being chased down by Saul, and the Psalm that speaks of this, then you go right back to Psalm, and then the great praise Psalms, 150, or number 1, or number 23, which when I'm going through difficult times, it's 23. I read that to somebody who was dying of cancer. I read it over him just recently, and we just sat together and he recited it. And here's a man who had no faith background at all, and we both cried as we said it. And the Lord's my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thy rod is with me, thy staff, it comforts me. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. How can you not be moved by such extraordinary images, almost like a stream of consciousness that comes through in that psalm? And so it brings comfort at a time of great depression. And when you want to exuberantly praise, there are some fantastic praising with the trumpet, the cymbal and harp, dance before him. So there are those times of exhilaration. And what it says to me, the Psalms, is that there's a time for everything under the sun, as the Proverbs say. And so for me, the Psalms reflect a lot of what we need to hear, even if we don't always want to hear it.
Jonathan, this time has just flown by, because I love music with a real passion, but Burnley's probably not described as a hotbed for opera. They're probably far from it, but it's a genre that I've not really dipped my toes in. What is the joy of opera for you as somebody who sings it? And if you were asked to give an advert, which I'm going to do now, is give an advert for opera. What is it that is such joyful about it?
Right. Well, you see behind me there, okay, that way. You see, I'm going to just point to me here. Oh, there we go. There I am. Now that's me in Norway doing Falstaff. This whole thing that went up outside. What's the joy? The orchestra. We sing without microphones. The amount of work that we do to produce the sound that we do, it'd be 7 years before they'd allow me to do anything on stage of training properly in an opera house. You then, once you start that apprenticeship, then you go through, and that before you do the big roles like that I've just shown you, as the title role in that, about 168 times around the world, and you have to go through so much. Now, the musical score, the orchestra, a 68-piece orchestra, you know, a massive band of musicians, fabulous. When you're in the theatre, the lights go down and the orchestra starts. The smell of the theatre, the incredible achievement of sometimes up to 150 people on stage singing powerfully without microphones. Okay, that I have to be against an orchestra of 68 musicians, and all playing at the same time. But that's my job. And when it happens, when it comes together, the genius that is in composing. Now, I might just point out that the classical composers were genius. Mozart was a genius. Verdi was a genius. These are fantastic. It's not like writing an ABBA song. All right, this is not genius. This is just clever, and clever marketing. So there are some geniuses out there who are Jacob Collier, fantastic singer, jazz musicians that work and work and work. Often the guys who stand on the X Factor, you know, they sing it in their front room, and my grand says that I should be you know, and it's my dream, and I just want to cry in front of the television. All that nonsense. Well, that's got nothing to do with anything. Okay, I was asked, strangely, to go on X Factor. I was asked to come to be the. She said, look, she said, we'd like you to go on. She said, because she said we want some quality as well. That's what we want. She said, you won't win. The blind dog from Burnley will win. That's what she said. So I said, okay. All right, that's why when you look at a complete juxtaposition of that with opera, which is extraordinary hard work, 6-7 weeks rehearsal to get it to that point where it's like a polished diamond by the time we finish with it, and you're supposed to do it without error. Then the audience, what they hear is a feast to the ears. It's a feast to the eyes. It attacks all the senses, all of them, and it's just extraordinary. And the first time I remember standing out at Covent Garden, I just couldn't believe I was there. And I went out as a 24, 25-year-old to sing a small role in an opera by Verdi. And I stood there and I could not believe I was doing this. And the sound overtook me and I became very emotional. Came off stage and cried. It was that. It's so powerful and emotion. And when people go, the trouble is that people, I suppose, they say, oh, it's for rich people. It's not for rich people. I'm just a boy from North London, all right? You can hear it in my accent. I'm not posh. But I love the music, and I will dedicate myself to teaching that at university and teaching from the piano, teaching people to sing in an almost perfect way as much as they can. And that drive for perfection is what we don't. We never get there. We're always heading there. And I've never done a perfect performance, not once. My wife would always say, how did it go? And I said, well, it's nearly there. Next time. The journey's the thing, as they say.
Just quickly, Jonathan, if somebody is interested in checking out opera, where's a good opera to start? What would you suggest to me?
That would be, I would say, Madame Butterfly, which is a story of Miss Saigon, effectively. Mm-hmm. Madame Butterfly by Puccini. The other one is, you could do Tosca. That's quite a good one. It's got some fantastic tenor arias that you'll recognise. Puccini is quite good because you hear things like, you know, nessun dorma, principessa. That one, I don't sing that one. It's a tenor aria, but you get bits that you recognise. In the Madame Butterfly, you'll hear the humming chorus from the choir. And it's just, you recognise it, you go, I recognise that. Another one to do would be the Barbara Seville, which is a work by Rossini. That one. And you'll sing along, you go, I recognise that. And it's good to recognise stuff. And then you get all the stuff that you don't know. And you go for the experience. So go for Rossini, Mozart, The Marriage of Figaro, you know. to start with. That's Mozart. And Don Giovanni. It's a fantastic dramatic opera, and I did that so many times. Glyndebourne with famous security Calloway and all that kind of stuff. So all of those are great ways to start and to listen to it on Spotify. Listen to it, but go and book one. English National Opera. They do it in English, so you can understand it, and they've got super titles over there. You can get cheap seats in there. Okay, so you're not paying a fortune to do it, but even if you're paying £20 or £30, you go and do that to watch a football match, or for £50. So go and experience it. Don't diss it before you've tried it, man.
No, I will definitely go and put some on my Spotify the minute we've finished. Jonathan, it's been brilliant. It's really brilliant talking to you. Like I say, I really love.
Fantastic, mate. I've enjoyed it so much. I love doing these. They're great podcasts. Are great fun, and I just commend Sunday night, Jonathan Veira. Friend me on Facebook. You can come and join us on YouTube or Facebook, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, and we do it live from the Steinway Room. And who knows? I can't remember who's on this week, but we've got loads of special guests coming up. People coming into the studio to play. Bryn Howarth, the famous slide guitar player. I've got Mark Edwards, the famous my producer, fabulous pianist. Richard, another fabulous pianist coming in who will just blow your socks off, as well as interviews and various other things that we do. So that's on Sunday night. Join us there and learn more about me. Otherwise, jonathanveira.com. Go on there and find out about what we're doing and where we're doing it, calendars and everything else. Alex, it's been very, very lovely of you to interview me, and it's great to talk.
Wonderful, Jonathan. Jonathan, could you play us out with, well, can I make a request? I've got one of my friends is Ave Maria. I don't know if that's in your portfolio, but also the 23rd.
Right,
Jonathan, let's just say cheerio, and we'll play out. And thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming on the Gold Class. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, mate. God bless you, and have a good post-pandemic. I can't remember it from there. Let me do the other one, which is The Lord's my shepherd, I not want. He makes me lie in pastures green, and lead in still waters, and restores my soul. And again, and I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. I'll walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one, for you are with me, and your rod and staff are the comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you alone, and I will trust in you alone, for your endless mercy follows me, your goodness will lead me home. very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jonathan. God bless from Burnley, and thank you again. Thank you.